Hey everyone, it's Casey Nicole. And this week we're doing Backbend week. And Backbends can be a little intimidating, so I want to make sure that I'm doing classes that are targeting all different levels, whether you're newer to Backbends or you're looking to deepen your Backbends. This practice will help you to not only open and progressively work on building more and more flexibility into the spine and into the front of the body, but also mobilization. So we want to build the strength to be able to support that flexibility and work within an active range of motion. So we're going to be focusing a lot on camel pose today. So we will be on our knees a good portion. We'll also be sitting back on our heels. And if this is not a comfortable position for you, you can always take another seat or come forward into tabletop. But just so you're aware, we will spend time in this shape. I would recommend having 2 blocks for practice, especially as we work through different variations so that you can feel best in your body and create as much space as necessary. If you're ever in the Modesto, California area, be sure to check out Elevate Community Yoga Studio. Absolutely love this space. I'm very grateful to be filming here today. So with that being said, we're going to keep it short and sweet. We're going to start off in a seated position, seated back onto the heels. If this isn't comfortable for you, any seat is just fine. Or you can take a block or two between the feet and use it to gently elevate the hips a little bit up so that you don't have as much pressure into the knees or into the ankles. Wherever you feel that tension, just try to alleviate with props as necessary. Otherwise, just a nice comfortable seat on your heels is just fine. Spine lifts up nice and tall. Go ahead and relax your shoulders, soften your face. And as the spine stays lifted, try to relax everything else around it and just begin to ground down into this space. As you close the eyes, feel the breath gently moving in and out at a nice natural rhythm. Notice how you breathe, everyday breath without having to control or use any effort with your breath. Now we're going to start to intentionally build the breath to create more space for the breath to move within the body. So let's exhale. Release your breath out of your lungs fully and completely. Through the nose, begin to breathe in, expand the breath through the belly, up into the rib cage, and then lift it all the way up into your chest, your upper back, your shoulders. Everything expands open, and then hold it briefly at the top. And then open up your mouth and exhale, let it all the way out. Again, let's take a slow breath through the nose, fill up from the bottom to the top, all the way around, lifting, expanding, holding briefly at the top of the breath. Open up the mouth and let it go. Let's do that again, but we'll keep the breath through the nose. Slow inhale from the bottom to the top, all the way around. Once you reach the top of the breath, keep it through the nose, just as slowly. Exhale, empty out from the chest, to the ribs, and all the way out through the belly and low back. And then relax your breath a little bit. So you're using less effort, but you still feel a nice, smooth, rhythmic cadence of your breath. And then just gently blink open through the eyes. So we're going to work towards camel position. And we're going to go through different variations to feel the benefits of that back bend. So as you stay seated onto your heels, this is where I would recommend sitting up on a block or two between the feet. If you're going to sit on a block or two, make sure the block goes sideways so that your sit bones both connect onto the block. Sometimes if you turn it narrow, you're not going to have much of a grounding space for your hips. So you can either stack them one on top of the other, or you can stack one up on its side, or one low, one high, okay? And you can stick those right between the feet so that your hips have something to prop up onto. I'm gonna keep that here just as a point of reference. You can sit on your heels and that's just fine. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna separate the knees about the width of the hips, maybe a little bit wider. I don't want them splayed out too wide. I want them to stay within the range of your hips, okay? Feet can stay, but if you want, you can also separate your feet a little bit as well, okay? Now what we're going to do is we're going to kind of flow from one side to the other, where you have the option of just lifting up through the chest or lifting all the way up through your hips, okay? So we're going to take the first one nice and slow. Let's take the right fingertips, reach them out to the right, and then reach them back around behind you until you can set the fingertips down to the ground behind you. If you need a block underneath the hand, that's totally fine as well. Now, as you root down into those fingertips, begin to lift up through your ribs and chest. Left arm reaches up high. You can stay here, or if it feels natural, you can push your hips forward, maybe coming off that block if you have one, and then opening up a little bit here. And then exhale, you're going to sink the hips back down, either to the block or to the feet. Left fingertips sweep around to the left and back behind you. Right arm reaches up. Open up your chest, stay here, or lift the hips up off the ground. And then sinking the hips back down. I'm going to release my block on this one. You can always keep it. Right fingertips sweep out to the right and behind you. Inhale, let's lift the chest, maybe lift the hips. Exhale, hips down, sweep the left fingertips around behind you. Inhale, right arm up, open up the chest, maybe lift up through the hips. Now continue on your own. Exhale, you lower down and start to set up the hand positioning. Inhale, you lift open through the chest, maybe draw up through the hips and spine. We're going to do a couple more rounds. So exhale, lower. Bring the left fingertips around. Move at your own pace. Try to move slow, and you're still synced up with your breath. We're going to do one more round on both sides, finishing on our left side. Okay, now on your next exhale, once you've finished both of those, bring yourself back around to center. Let's walk the knees in if they were drawn out a little bit wider. And then let's come up onto the knees. So now you're in this kneeling position on your knees. If you have tenderness in your knees, I definitely do, feel free to roll up the front of your mat. You can roll it as many times as you need until you have a good amount of cushion and support underneath your knees so it feels a little bit more padded, okay? Now, same thing, we want the knees to be about the width of the hips. We don't want them to be splayed out too wide. That's when we start to lose that stability and lose that connection into our hips and into our core. We want everything to feel stabilized and secured, supported. So from here, we're going to start by taking the hands around into the low back, almost like you're going to slide your hands into your invisible back pockets. And then gently press your hips forward, spine up tall, and then push your glutes down. So you almost get this slight scooping or tuck of the tail. And as you press the hips forward, we're not going to do a back bend on this first one. We're going to do some levers and start to build some strength into the front of the hips. So as you hold here, slowly start to just lean back and notice that point where you feel all the tension building across the front of the body. And then inhale, lift it back up. Exhale, hinge it back. Inhale, lift it up. You might not move very much, and that's okay. Exhale, hinge it back. And then inhale, lift it up. Let's go ahead and sit back either onto your feet, blocks, or you can come forward into tabletop position if this feels better for you, okay? Now in between, feel free to kind of roll into your pelvis. Feel free to find movements that help you to kind of bring yourself back into a neutral space. Okay, so for this next one, we're going to open up the spine one bone at a time. Now, I'm going to go through a process that I like to do when I'm opening up my spine, which is opening from the top down rather than from the bottom up. Now, the reason I like working this approach is because when you work from the bottom up, typically we collapse into our lower back and we allow our lumbar spine to almost hinge, collapse, or we create a kink into the low back. And that's not what we're looking for. We want to find equal distribution through the entire spine to feel open equally through the heart as much as we do into the low back. But because the lower back already has that natural curvature, it's a lot harder to access the space into the upper, which is why I like to start there, okay? So let's go ahead and come up onto the knees. Once again, about the width of your hips, maybe a little bit wider, but still securely connected. And we feel that stability. Hands into the back pockets. Slide the fingers down and push the glutes down, that slight tuck of the tail. Now, hips press forward. Instead of just hinging and dropping into the low back, we're going to start from the top and work our way down. Your focal point is going to be the point that you try to lift each space of your spine towards. So before we go into it, I'm going to cue you to first find a focal point, then to lift your chest, then to lift your ribs, and then to lift your front hip points. When you connect to each space, you're opening up that section of the spine. So really imagine it's trying to stretch open and find more and more lift, okay? The more lift we can find rather than hinging or kinking, the more space we're gonna find for our back bends, okay? Stay in your breath. If you go beyond the breath, you're going beyond that threshold. Stay in your safe zone, okay? Your breath keeps you safe. So let's take the hands into the low back, push the glutes down, hips slightly forward. Now keep the hips exactly as they are. Begin to look up at the ceiling. And as you look up, lift through your throat and your chin. So you're not just dropping your head back, you're actively lifting through throat and chin. Breathe. Now lift your chest towards that focal point. Lift your rib cage towards the focal point. Lift your front hip points towards that focal point. And then see if you can look back a little bit and then lift your chest, lift your ribs, lift your front hip points. One more breath. Take it as deeply as you'd like to go. Then inhale, roll your spine all the way back up. And then you can sit back on the heels or take tabletop, any little movements here, but try to avoid forward folding. Try to avoid curling your back and rounding your spine. We want to try to keep it as open as possible as we move progressively into these deeper variations. The more we re-neutralize our spine each time, it feels like we have to start over again. So we want to keep ourselves open until the very end, if possible. And then we'll release into a forward fold, okay? So it might feel really tempting to do so now. Try to maintain that openness for as long as you can, okay? Now on this next one, I'm gonna give options for reaching one hand back. Now, one hand can reach towards the heel, that's fine. But you can also reach for a block if the heel is a little too far, and that's totally fine. We're gonna do one hand at a time, and then I'll give option for both hands. Now, as you come up, okay, you find that distance with your legs. Notice as the feet are flat, my heels are a little bit lower to the ground. If I tuck my toes, I get a little bit more lift of my heels, right? So that might be all you really need to be able to reach back and connect to it, okay? But that still might be a little too far, and sometimes it's nice just to have a block instead, okay? And then you can drop your hand onto the block, keep it right to the outside of that heel, if that's what you're gonna do, okay? Now, with this one, the only thing I want you to avoid is when we're in this back bend, I don't want you to twist to try to reach to the heel. You open in the back bend and you keep your hips square. Maybe the heel or a block is there. If it's not, I want you to keep your hands to your back to keep it supported. We don't want to come into this deep extension of the spine. And while we're in this deep extension, then try to twist from one side to the other because we're putting ourselves in a position where something might happen, right? We don't want to create space for little twinges or tweaks in our body. We want to stay mindfully connected to our bodies. So we move in a way that feels connected. We're not forcing the shape, okay? Any variation of the pose is still the pose. I say this often and I absolutely mean it. You're still getting the same benefits. In fact, you're getting more benefits if you back off and stay in that integrity rather than trying to force shapes that aren't quite accessible to your body just yet. And therefore you end up moving into weird shapes that could potentially put unnecessary strain on your bodies, okay? So your ego is not your amigo, let it go, and just simply connect to what actually feels good in your body, okay? So if you want those blocks set up to the outside of your feet, you can do that here, okay? Hands around to your lower back, find those back pockets, glutes push down, hips gently draw forward. If you want to tuck the toes, if that's your variation, you can absolutely do that, okay? Now, as the hips press forward, let's start with that focal point. Lift your focal point up. Breathe, lift your chest, lift your ribs, lift your hip points. Continue to look back, opening up each section of your spine. Now, you can either stay here or without twisting, Maybe your right hand drops back for your heel or a block. Push down into it so your heart is still lifting. You're not collapsing. Left arm can reach up and overhead if you have connection with that right hand. Another breath. Hands come around to the back. Push the hips forward, roll the spine back up, and then you can sit back onto your heels or land in a tabletop position. And once again, find some movement here in your body. Try to avoid the forward fold. We're getting closer. Back bends aren't easy, right? Back bends, they aren't a shape that we take very often in our day-to-day lives, right? But if you don't use your body and how it's naturally designed to move, you lose it, right? So that's why back bending feels so difficult, because we don't often use it. But it's still a natural function of our bodies that we should build, strengthen, support, and find more space for. Okay, so let's do a second round. This time we're going to do the left hand or keeping hands at the back. So let's go ahead and come back up. Find that positioning. Maybe tuck the toes here if that's the variation you're going for, or set up your blocks. Hands into those back pockets, push the glutes down, slightly draw them forward. Let's start by lifting the gaze up. Breathe, lift the chest, ribs, front hip points. Maybe look back. Continue to lift section by section. Breathe, stay here, or without twisting, maybe left hand reaches back for the heel. If you hold on to the heel, you're not dropping your weight into it. You're lifting your chest like it's attached to a string being drawn upward. Maybe right arm reaches up and overhead. Give yourself another breath. Hands around to the back. Slowly roll your spine back up and then sit back onto the heels, resting here. Little movements. Okay. Now we're going to take one more variation. And as we do, I'll give option to reach both hands to the heels. Okay. Allowing that neutralizing in between, that space to kind of settle before we continue going deeper. Okay, when you're ready, let's go ahead and come back up onto those knees, feet flat, toes tucked, or blocks to either side of the foot. Hands to back pockets, push the glutes down, hips forward. Lift your gaze, breathe, chest, ribs, lift the front hip points, continue to look back, opening up section by section, stay here. Maybe one hand reaches back without twisting, maybe both. Chest is lifting tall. Really light in your hands. You're not just dumping your weight, you're actively lifting up and out of this position. One more breath. Now, hands at the back, slowly roll the spine all the way up, and then sit back onto your heels. If it feels good, kind of sway your arms side to side. Just get a little bit of twist. We're going to do one more variation. And as we do, this one is going to be unsupported with our hands. The hands are going to be at the heart center. Now, this one, because we don't have the support of the hands into the back, right, that acts as an extra beam of support. So without that, that means we're using all the stabilizing muscles in the body, and we're using active range of motion to be able to support our back bend. We're not just dumping into our flexibility and relying on it. We're actually building the strength to progressively work into those deeper back bends and support those deeper back bends. So this next one, let's go ahead and come back up. Find that positioning. Maybe tuck the toes or keep them nice and flattened, okay? Remember, we're not reaching back for the heels on this one, so whatever makes you feel more stabilized in your feet is the most important. Hands to your heart center. Now, if you are here and you start moving and right away you're like, this is not good for me, hands to back, and just use that as support and don't worry about having to reach back for anything, okay? But try as best as you can to feel the weight in your actual core is helping to open you up into this back bend, not just dumping your weight, okay? So hands at heart if you're able. Now feel the same tucking of the tail or the lengthening of the tail down, okay? You can still do that energetically. Begin to lift your gaze, breathe. Lift up through your chest, ribs, hips. Keep opening up, breathing, stay in that safe space. Once you're open as far as you can, see if now you can hinge back and draw yourself deeper. Inhale, roll the spine up. and then sit back onto your heels or any variation. We're gonna do that one more time. Now, once again, as you rest, once you come into your full back bend, then we hinge and come back up. So now you're in a back bend and adding on that lever, which is not only strengthening your spine, but you're now strengthening into the front. You're getting deep, deep strength into your quads and your hip flexors and into those deep core muscles, okay? So let's take another breath or two. Last round. Go ahead and come up. Find your knee positioning, your feet positioning, hands to your heart center. Tail reaches down. Then lifting your gaze up, breathe. Lift the chest, lift the ribs, lift the front hip points. Keep drawing back, opening, opening. Once you're open as far as you can, hinge, bending, sinking back. Inhale, roll it up, roll up through the spine, and then slowly sit back. Now, as you sit back, that was the last one, so you can uncurl your mat if you rolled it in a little bit. And then from here, hands to your lap, and just slowly start to tuck the tail. Be really gentle. And as you tuck the tail, start to round your lower back, round through your mid back, round into your upper back. Let the chin draw to the chest. Get as much tucking through the tail as you can here. Another breath. Re-neutralize your spine. Feel free to kind of roll in your hips. Imagine, it's called a pelvic bowl. So imagine it's kind of rolling like a bowl onto all sides. Go both directions. And then we're going to take a narrow leg child's pose. So you can keep your legs as they are, let your hips sink towards your heels, knees together, or separate them if that creates any tension in your back. And then try to let your spine round over your legs, letting your head drop, maybe resting hands or a block underneath your head for support. If it feels good, to still add a little bit of rocking in your hips side to side. Do what feels good for you. Give yourself a few more breaths to just let your spine relax back, bringing it back to neutrality. Okay, when you're ready, let's come up, swing the legs around, find your way into a comfortable cross-leg seated position. We're going to finish off with a couple twists since we did some pretty deep back bending. I just want to make sure we wring everything out. So from a cross-leg seat of your choosing, arms reach up, take a deep breath in, spine tall. Exhale, twist to the right side. Left hand connects to the right knee, right fingertips to the ground. Lift your spine on an inhale. And then exhale, gently twist yourself open to the right side. Maybe look back over your right shoulder. 2 more breaths. Lifting on each inhale and then twisting on each exhalation. Last one. Inhale, come back around, reach your arms up high. And then exhale, twist to the left side. Right hand to your left knee, left fingertips to the ground. Lifting up on an inhale. And then exhale, twisting open. 2 more breaths, same thing. Lift taller on each inhale. Twist deeper on the exhale. Maybe look back over the shoulder. Last breath here. Slowly come back around to center, arms stretch up high. And then draw your hands down together at your heart. Take a moment to just close your eyes. Feel your spine. Notice if there's any tension. Try to breathe and move that tension through. Maybe your body wants to sway a little bit. And then as you find a nice center point where you can ground through your sit bones and draw up through your crown, thank your body for all that it just did for you. And thank you so much for allowing me to guide you through the practice. Open up your eyes whenever you're ready. So camel pose can be a challenging posture. There's a lot going on in it, but there's also ways that we can build our way up to it. So that's why I like to cater to an all levels, because it's not necessarily levels, but variations that help to meet you where you are, right? And so when we find those right modifications for ourselves, we can embody the shape and actually feel the benefits of these back bends. So there's a lot of power and strength that we build here. There's a lot of strength, especially into the legs and the stabilizing, right? So it's not just about being flexible. It's about being strong and supported within that range of motion, our flexibility, right? So we want active range of motion, not just a wet noodle, right? So I hope that this was helpful for you. This is one of my favorite back bends. There's so many different back bends you can do, but this was just one focus. So if you don't like being on your knees, there's plenty of other back bends to choose from. Otherwise, I'll have another video coming later this week that you'll be able to see, and we're going to once again stay in the realm of the spine and back bending. If you're ever in the Modesto, California area, once again, Elevate Community Yoga Studio is the space. So I'm looking forward to the next time. Thank you again. Feel free to share any comments and share with a friend if you think they would enjoy. See you next time.